Fishing is fun, but hooking is the only way. We're gonna show you how to catch some fish today.
So hey guys, this is the report for October 26th. But first I want to let you know a little bit about myself. You know, I've been in the fishing industry for around 30 years. I get a lot of my information from guides, from customers, friends, and I'm on the water 3 or 4 times a week. So come time Saturday, you know, the information that I give you is pretty accurate. So guys, I post 2 videos a week. On Monday, I post my learning video, so you know I do something, whatever's going on, so you can learn. And then on Wednesday, I post the reports, and they're pretty accurate. Also, if you're on your way fishing Saturday morning, listen to 1140 on the AM dial. I'm on live at 6:30 in the morning, and I go over a lot of stuff that's happening right now. So let's get on with this report. So the hottest thing going on right now, fishing-wise, is the rock fishing anywhere on the west coast, the Farallon Islands, anywhere out of San Francisco, Bodega Bay, because in the fall the rockfish, the lingcod come in to spawn, so there's a lot of good grade fish out there. They're averaging like 10 to 25 pounds, and boats are all limiting out. It's pretty easy. You could either use iron, you know, if you go on a party boat, I would get probably 12 and 16 ounce iron. If you go on a private boat, I would go from 4, maybe 6 to 8 ounce. So if you go on the party boats, you need a little heavier stuff. If you just want to catch rockfish, just bring your shrimp flies, and they're pretty plentiful. So the rock fishing's just on fire right now. Even the kayak guys are going up by above Bodega Bay and catching the heck out of the rockfish because they don't have to go very far offshore. So other things going on in the salt is the halibut action. It's still very good. They're catching a lot of them in the bay, drifting live anchovies. I don't know if they're still selling it, but halibut will usually hit anything. So you could use tray bait, and you're just going to use a 3-way with a little dropper with 18, 20-inch leader, 3 or 4 foot leader, and then hook the anchovy through the lip and then run the treble hook in his back and drift it, and they're catching a lot of them. They're getting some really nice fish there, and limits are pretty much the rule. So also right past the Farallon Islands, they're still hooking up on bluefin. The guys that work for me were out there last week and they hooked a couple, and they're still catching them, trolling those Mad Maxes at 15 knots. So make sure you got enough fuel, because when you're traveling that fast trolling, you burn a lot of gas. But they're catching bluefin out there still. Haven't heard too much about the albacore, but that bluefin bite is still happening. So other things going on, I heard Tamales Bay, the halibut's pretty decent out there, right outside the breakers, and you got to be careful because if it's rough, that's one of the roughest places around. So just make sure that it's calm before you head out. Haven't heard too much on the salmon action. It's getting really late, so a lot of the salmon, you know, are already up in our river systems, the ones that made it up there. I guess there's quite a few up at the hatchery already, but it's been a tough year for the salmon in the river because the water temperatures were so warm. It's actually hard to get a bite. I went out last Monday and I never got a touch. So it's a little bit difficult on that salmon scene right now. It's cooling off a little bit, but I think it's a little bit too late because those fish will turn and they're not going to wait till the water cools off. So there's guys, the only guys I know that are really doing really good on the salmon are the guys that are lining them up in the Feather and the Upper American River. They're catching them, drifting the bead, because the fish just sits in a current like this, drift the bead through their mouth, and you hook them. And you remember, you only can use a 6-foot leader. Also, on the American River, from Ansel Hoffman, where the power lines go across to Hazel Avenue, it will close at the end of this month. So you got about a week left if you want to try to catch salmon there, but you can fish below it, so that still stays open till the end of the year. So now we're going to go inward, and we'll talk a little bit about the delta. The striper bite's been turning on. The water temperatures are dropping in the mid-60s now, which is a big help. We were out there last week and we had a really good surface action. We caught a fish, the biggest was only about 7 or 8 pounds, but we had some big explosions on top water. we caught a lot of fish on the 5-inch fish trap bait, you know, the plastic with a 1/2 ounce jig head in it. And we were working big flats that were like 2 to 6 feet deep. And we got on this one flat, and we probably got maybe 10 blow-ups on topwater. It was a lot of fun. So that's gonna happen real quick, especially if this weather would just cool off and maybe put a little rain in there, it'll really turn on. The bass bite, also last week I was down there, and you know, this time of the year, when I'm up north, I usually get onto a good flipping bite, and I had a perfect tide, went up there, my first 2 spots, 0. I did not get nothing. So basically I just have this like instinct, like someone telling me, hey, you know, you need to go look over in the flats. So I went over in the flats, picked up a spinnerbait, and it was game on. We caught quite a few fish on blades, so that told me that those fish, maybe the water didn't cool off quite a bit enough, so they went out and they're on these big weed flats in the current, and they're attacking spinnerbaits. Chatterbaits didn't work that good, but the spinnerbait works. And this is some of the things. One guy asked me, why would you use a chatterbait versus a spinnerbait? And basically, you just have to try it. I noticed that when the water temperature is warmer, I'd rather use the chatterbait for bass. And then when the water starts cooling, I'll go to the spinnerbait. And I've been a lot more successful. Stripers, the opposite. It cools off like that, I go to the chatterbait. So the striper bite's good down the delta. The bass bite's pretty decent. Not a whole lot of big ones, but you know, you're getting a decent average, a 12 to 15 pound limit. So the crappie fishing, we were out last week and we actually went and tried in the delta. Water's still a little bit, temperature a little bit warm. We went in and looked in some of our spots off the McCallum, and we only caught a few. And they weren't very big. You know, they're your maybe a 1/2 pound, 3/4 pound fish, but it was tough. So it's not quite ready. As soon as it cools off, they'll start migrating in there and then all hell could break loose. But we snuck up here to Berryessa, and you know, with the first couple of drops we threw out, we couldn't believe how big they were. When we pulled them fish up, our eyes got this big because these fish were over 2 pounds. So we're up at Berryessa and we got into a school of big slabs.
I mean, big.
Yeah.
Mine are bigger because I use niblets.
This one's the biggest, 2-pounder.
I wish. Get mine. Come on. Come on, people.
We had a good day.
Oh, we had an epic day.
These crappie were massive. And we had a good bite this morning and we moved around and actually had a good day. So I'm probably gonna make a video here pretty quick on this on Berryessa for crappie.
Dave, do you normally get crappies this big?
This monster here. I can hardly lift him.
Now you used to have a houseboat here. Did you get crappie this big then?
Never. 40 years I've been fishing here and never caught them this big.
The other things happening, trout guys, if you want to get out and go trout fishing, the place to go is Pardee right now because they plant every Friday. They've been planting for the last 3 or 4 Fridays. Comanche won't start planting until the water drops under 70 degrees, which should happen pretty quick because it's starting to cool off at night. So you can anticipate them to start planting pretty soon, but Pardee's the one that's planting right now. I heard there's guys picking up fish at Collins. Some of the high Sierra lakes, I would check and make sure you could get into them before you head up that way. But trout fishing should be pretty good as the weather cools off. Nothing like Pyramid though. Pyramid Lake is one of the best trout fisheries in the world. I went there, as you guys know, I'm going to go back up there pretty soon. I got a video that came out. If you watched this last Monday, you're going to see how big those trout really are. They're really big, they're fun, they're explosive. We caught them spooning with bladerunner spoons. We caught a lot of them on flutter spoon. And I took a gitsit up there, which I used to catch a lot of fish in the ocean with it, and caught them on gitsits. So anything that, and if I had to pick one lure though, it'd be a spoon if I went up there, because those fish are in 60 to 80 feet of water. But if you haven't been there, you need to get up there. Watch the video this last Monday, and then I'm gonna be coming out one here real shortly, showing you how I actually do it. Because it's a little bit different there, because you're in such a deep water. It's not that you vertical. We verticaled a little bit, but it wasn't as good as if you casted it out. So having the right equipment, line and everything else. So look out for that video coming out pretty soon. So we're gonna go other things, bass fishing. Bass fishing in the lakes has been pretty good, but one of the problems, like we have some friends, Don's been up at berryessa doing really good on bass. He's been to Folsom. Folsom's been a little tough because the lake is so low. It's a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit, but they are catching them. You know, I went up there like 3 weeks ago and got them, but the water level keeps falling. And whenever you get a lake, any lake where the water is falling down, even here at berryessa, fishing gets tough. So you need to move offshore. So that's what we're doing. You know, we're offshore fishing creek channels out in the middle of the lake. So those fish will go out there and suspend because they feel more safe. So my tackle tip for this week, guys, is a fall tactic about how I go about knowing what I'm going to do or where am I going to go after, what kind of equipment I'm going to use. During the fall, remember, any lake that has threadfin shad or any kind of bait fish like that, they'll usually, this is the time of the year that they spawn, and they'll usually head up to the main channels, main creeks that feed the lake. They could start in the south end of the lake and head all the way to the north end, or they could stay around, concentrate in the middle, but then they start balling up. So what I've found is a lot of them, they'll hug that thermocline. So like when I'm going out, if you don't have a meter that's strong enough to see the thermocline, I just turn my meter on and I'll start island out no matter where you are. And I'll try to look on my contours on my GPS so I can see where the channel runs, because I know that's the deepest part of the lake. And I'll start island around in there, and I'm gonna see bait fish. I might see bass, catfish, carp, anything. They're gonna be probably right above the thermocline. So when I went up to Pyramid, we did that, and the fish were all around 60 to 80 feet. So I pretty much know that the thermocline is probably right around 80, 85, 90, right around there, because they like to suspend right above it. So you're gonna have your bait balls there, and where you think your fish are gonna be. One of the things I always tell everybody is if I had one thing to do to learn how to fish, I would learn what the fish eats, and I would learn about how that fish, where it lives and where it's at different times of the year. That's the food source, so that's the way to learn. So during the fall, bait fish ball up, they start heading to the main creek channels to spawn, and all the fish follow them. So one of the things also, guys, look back at this video this last Monday when I was at Pyramid, because we stayed there all day, and actually probably around 4 or 5 o'clock, the bait fish started to rise, and you could actually see them on your electronics. The bait fish started to rise, and we would look and see big, massive clouds of bait, and then you'd see them go, because then you see a trout go buzzing through them. And you take a spoon and you throw it out, I count it down, I just reeled it back, and boom, we were hooking up fish. So in the evening time, those bait fish rose to the top, and those fish just follow them. So that's my tackle tip of the week. Make sure you guys hit that like, and please hit the subscribe button, because it'll help my channel out a lot. If you look in the bottom corner, you click that button, you can leave a comment, and I'll usually get back to you probably within 2 or 3 days. But I'll answer anything you ask. You could ask me on any of the 90 videos that I've done. So that's my report for this week, and I'll see you guys next week.
Fishing is fun, but hooking is the only way. We're gonna show you how to catch some fish today.